Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to the latest edition of AI and You, a program that explores and discusses issues on artificial intelligence or AI from the perspective of Islam. AI and You is produced by Batrisyia Afrina and I'm your host, Sheikh Muhammad Saifuddeen bin Sheikh Muhammad Salleh. Alhamdulillah, this week we are very privileged to be joined by a special guest who will discuss a topic beyond the algorithm, innovation for good. Please welcome Dr. Jasmine Begum, Regional Director, Corporate, External and Legal Affairs, Microsoft ASEAN. Welcome, Dr. Jasmine.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shaikh, for having me. And indeed, this is a very timely topic, and I am excited to share some of the learnings we have had and look forward to having this conversation. Thank you.
Inshallah, inshallah. Thank you for taking some time off your busy schedule to join us in the studio this afternoon.
Thank you.
Right, Doctor, let's get on with our discussion. My first question. You have a background in law, and now you're working in the industry. How would you describe the changes brought about by artificial intelligence?
I think at every point in history, we have had these transitions, but the transformative shape or shifts that has happened with artificial intelligence has been just the speed at which it has happened has taken us by surprise. If we look at the first industrial revolution, right from the time when we moved from a horse cart to automobiles, the era of printing, and today where we are talking about artificial intelligence, the biggest opportunity I've seen is how data being accessible can now be turned into insight, and the output that comes out of this is just fast. And we have seen how healthcare has been has reaped some of the benefits. Many of the industries have now just leapfrogged by using artificial intelligence. I do think that this is where we see opportunity. Even in the legal profession, we see where a lot of the template work can now be done by artificial intelligence, where lawyers now give higher end work. We focus on the higher value work, the negotiation, the people intervention. And we recognize people are always in the loop. So that intervention is where we see we can now focus on high value work. As a lawyer, I see that as an opportunity. We see it across industries. We also see some of the emerging areas where have just gone straight to artificial intelligence. We see it from agriculture to right up to legal work. Just the spectrum of coverage that AI has had has been tremendous. We have seen this in India, where farmers use AI to look at the benefits and subsidies that are available to them. So to me, the impact has been tremendous.
Right. I think this is perhaps one of the most important questions for me. From your perspective, does Islam encourage the use of AI?
I actually was reflecting on this question, and I was thinking, if we go back in history, again, in Islamic history, we have seen the use of camel, and then we have seen how automation was actually something that the Muslim inventors were part of it, whether it was Khwarizmi or some of our Ibn Sina, and all of the Islamic inventors have created and invented along the way, have invented all of the new findings. With Al-Khwarizmi being the father of algorithm, I do think it is quite fascinating to see how much the influence of AI is not something that's new. Influence of algorithm goes back. To me, as long as the use of AI is for good, that would be the basis. And I would anchor this back to everything we have known through life, where Islam doesn't forbid anything that is good for the ummah. And to me, if the use of AI has greater good and has societal impact, I think that's the most important principle I would look at.
Right, you mentioned that AI can bring about good for the ummah.
Yes.
So in what ways can Muslims benefit from this technology?
AI has had a wide impact, but let me focus on one or two areas where I think we have advantage. We as in Malaysia and we as Muslim Ummah. The use of artificial intelligence in tracking of the supply chain for halal AI would be able to play an important role, and we have seen how AI is being used in the supply chain for halal. I think those are areas where specifically we can build and further refine and serve the greater ummah. The knowledge that comes with AI or learning with using AI also allows you to contribute effectively. To me, whether using AI to have better yield in crops, or to use AI in farming, or to use AI in education, all of that serves. Even using the artificial intelligence today to have better understanding of the Quran and doing summaries. And I know that a lot of these, even today the AIs are able to say whether they are allowed to make some of this analysis that they are supposed to make. And with prompting and the right prompting, I do think AI can have a huge impact on Ummah for our everyday life. But most importantly, we must invest in learning, having the AI fluency. I think that is an important aspect.
One worry that people have about AI is that it will replace or displace jobs. What are your views on that?
It is real because AI will take away the mundane part of the job. You know, the everyday part of the job. But let me give you an example. Long ago, before the ATM machine was put in place, we had tellers at the counter. When ATM machines came into place, we were worried that the tellers would lose their job. But then tellers moved up to do more high-end work. Similarly, you may remember our tolls.
Yeah.
We used to have human handing out our tickets and taking money from us. But what happened to all of those people who are sitting in toll booths? They have been skilled up and moved up to higher level jobs. Similarly, through the transformation, technology has very much changed the way we live. I would say that maybe if we lose 50,000 jobs, there are 200,000 new jobs that come on. I'm just giving you some number. Yes, there will be job loss because the mundane part will be taken over by machine. But there will be so much more new jobs that we need to look at. And how do we skill people up for that? I think that is the important part.
I think reskilling and upskilling is important here. And for me, I think those who will worry are those who refuse to adopt the technology,
Yes.
and those who refuse to learn and reskill. I think these are the group of people that will probably be affected. But those who are willing to unlearn and relearn, reskill, upskill, I think there are more opportunities for them when it comes to employment.
No, absolutely. I have recently spoken to my team, and we are talking about how do we as lawyers, like in-house lawyers, how do we upskill? So the IAPP recently introduced AI professionals certification. So we are thinking, how do we ensure the team continues to learn? And I'll give you an example. The Malaysian privacy laws have been introduced, which means now you will be looking at privacy professionals. And how do we ensure that people are getting skilled and getting certified? Because when you get certified, it opens up new job opportunities. Similarly, how do we get ethics officers will now become an important part, an integral part of organization. How do we ensure those we are creating those opportunities? How do we skill up people to have AI certification? If you take halal auditors, right? Similarly, how do we ensure that halal auditors now will have a component of AI, how they can also do audits? When it comes to halal audit, could we ensure that the AI component, the responsible AI component is included, ethical AI components included? I think that's where people need to think about a bit out of the box and say, I may have all of these technical skills, but I can learn this to complement my technical skills. And similarly, if you have social science degree, how do we now take the social science part of it and complement it with some of these new skills that have come? I think you cannot just say, I want to be in this box. It doesn't work.
Right. Okay. Picking up from what you said about responsible AI, how can we ensure that AI as a technological innovation can be used for good, or looking at it from another angle, to be used for amar ma'ruf nahi munkar?
Okay. So it's interesting. The foundation of responsible AI is in fact amar ma'ruf nahi munkar, right? Let me share about some of the principles we in Microsoft look at. It's fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency and accountability. And in amar ma'ruf nahi munkar, there are two big principles that we talk about: the fairness part and the accountability part. And that is foundational and fundamental to what we do, right? And it has to prevent evil. And this is where, when we talk about an organization wanting to implement artificial intelligence, what are the responsible AI framework? How do you ensure that it doesn't cause harm? And we talk about ensuring there is no bias. There are reference about bias that we talk about often, and ensuring that there is no bias. In the concept of husnuzon, we talk about making sure there is husnuzon and there is good intent. And all of this, if you look at the responsible AI principles, it encompasses that. If you look at the 7 principles of the AI in the Malaysia's
IGE, governance and ethics.
Yes, and the roadmap,
Yes.
Malaysia's roadmap. Ensuring happiness has been included. So if we look at all of these principles, in any technology, at the end of the day, the human in the middle provides that intervention, ensuring that responsible implementation, responsible and ethical use of AI is with us. So it's with the organization, it's with the individuals who have been given the responsibility, and having that certification that we just spoke about gives you that much more knowledge, right? So to me, responsible AI is non-negotiable, and organizations have to have a way to ensure that it is being implemented.
Right. How best can we implement responsible AI in organizations? Just to to probe your mind on this.
To me, in Microsoft, we have it by a committee.
Right.
There is a committee that looks at, do we sell to someone? Do we not sell to someone? What are the impacts?
Okay.
So, to me, it cannot be. An ethics officer becomes just like, in an integrity officer, that everyone has to be responsible, but there has to be a body that comes together and looks, reviews, and then applies it. It cannot be one ethics officer having that. Yes, that ethics officer probably becomes the convener, but then in our experience, we actually have a committee that decides.
Right. One concern, I think, when we talk about AI technology is inclusivity. On the one hand, people are talking about rural areas where the infra may not be as good as urban areas. And then we also have issues or concerns with regards to inclusivity with a certain vulnerable population, children with autism, for example. How best can we address this inclusivity issue?
I think it is interesting how AI has been used to address the vulnerable community, especially children with autism, children with learning disability. We know case studies where children with disability, where AI has been able to provide that intervention. I agree with you. The infrastructure concern continues because it's all on cloud. You need the data to support the output. And this is where we have to play an important role. As a community, I think being able to have a clean data set, that's your artificial intelligence is mathematics, it's not magic. So you need to have a strong foundational language model. You need to have data that supports that. And I agree with you. This is an opportunity to up-level everyone equally. And we can't leave anyone behind, and vulnerable community should benefit from it. I think we need to think about this by design. And connectivity, the digital infrastructure has to go back to the time when we had electricity.
Right.
Digital infrastructure will have to play an important role as we did when we had electricity, right? So there are points in history where we get introduced to general purpose technology. A general purpose technology like electricity that has a light output that can have electrical train. And similarly today with artificial intelligence, we have general purpose technology that has so many other outcomes. And this is where the role of digital infrastructure needs to be considered very carefully by governments.
Recently, I attended a seminar on using AI for education, and I am very much aware that Microsoft has a good working relationship with the Ministry of Education and also Ministry of Higher Education with providing all the necessary tools for education. How do you see AI transforming our education sector in the country?
I think there are two parts to this. The concern I get questioned on is, how do we ensure students are not using AI to write their...
Okay.
And this is where my conversation, interestingly, has been focused on, you cannot impede. You need to allow innovation. But you need to also change the way now you have this, how you look at and grade the student. If a student is able to put together a presentation, able to present it and argue and present a point of view, that should count more than a written paper. Because a written paper now, there are enough tools for them to mask, for them even to mask their AI, that, turn it in, may not
be able to detect.
Correct, because you can run through, and this is, at the end of the day, you want to teach students values. Look, yes, you can use AI, but you need to be clear about it. You need to be ethical about it. You need to quote your sources. But then I think moving away from that paper to being able to argue and present, I think that's where you teach students to present, you build confidence, but at the same time be able to present an idea. On the education part, I think, and this is a challenge I've had, we continue to teach technology as a standalone IT faculty.
Okay.
But the influence of AI in healthcare, the influence of AI in legal, the influence of AI in construction, it's no more it's still not cross-cutting. And the third pillar to this is how AI can help people with disability. The number of students with disability who can get into university and now use technology to grow, to get into higher education, technology can now enable that. I think we need to now think about how some of this technology has cross-cutting impact. For example, you have one source of data, right? You have one source of data, and the person in the medical faculty is doing a research. And similarly, the person in the IT department could be doing a similar research from a different angle with that one source of data. But can you imagine if they both cross-collaborate? The output, it would be tremendous. But today, we continue to be siloed in our research area. And to me, artificial intelligence is changing the way we work, the way we learn. And this is where my advocacy has always been, how do we now make sure it's cross-cutting?
I think the issue is that we've inherited a system where everything is compartmentalized. And you're right, I agree. AI is breaking down the barriers. But of course, changes like this may not be welcomed by some people. They may not be so comfortable with the challenges that come with it. So what are some of the challenges that you foresee regarding the future of AI, in particular for Muslims and also for Malaysia?
Two basic problems. One, digital infrastructure, right? You need the connectivity. And that I think we'll solve. I think we are rolling out our 5G and all of the data estates.
Okay.
In order for you to be able to have a robust language model, you need to have a good set of data. Most organizations don't know their data estate. Let's take halal. The number of halal organizations in Malaysia. We get the highest halal certification in the world. Companies like Nestle use our halal certification, right? Highest number. What kind of insights are we getting from those? How is Halal Malaysia a brand that we can now say, how could we make a difference with that? And similarly, the Islamic banking sector, we were pioneers with that. How are we turning those data into insights that we can now further personalize services, right? These are areas where we have advantage. We don't have data estate. We don't know our data size. We don't have insights. I could be wrong, but to me, I don't see the output.
But how do we set up this so-called data estates?
For example, you would have in IKIM 10,000 research on, I don't know, what's your common topic area?
Well, anything on current issues.
Current issues. Let's take the current issue of students dropping out of not pursuing the education. So if we can have that data from just say 2000 to 24 years of data, if we can consolidate that data information, because you would have done your research, now that data would be valid data. If you are able to run through a crunch on it, use computing, use the right parameters, you will now have an insight for you to do a predictive for the next 10 years.
Right. Foresighting.
Future. So for example, in the last 20 years, we know X number of companies have been certified for cosmetics or food. If we want to grow this industry, if we want to spearhead this industry and we want to grow startups, how is that data from the past could be used to ensure that we are growing the right number of industry, startups? How do we do breakthrough? How do we look at our exports? The data is sitting with someone. We are data rich, insight poor. Right? There is data. If I am coming to you and say, I want to register to become a halal producer of, I don't know, lipsticks. So you will have that data. But that data will remain a data. The data will have, you have a woman entrepreneur. You have someone who is doing halal certified lipstick. You have someone who will say, oh, it's organic. Can you imagine the kind of information you are gathering? You have it, but there are no insights. So how does this translate to a future, a foresighting?
I think that's one challenge that we have to overcome. I think to start off with, every organization, university, definitely.
100%. First, we have an analog situation. People are still having paper, not digital. Okay, we need to now move from analog to digital. And then you have this digital. Okay, you have digitized. How do you now turn this, look at your data estate and say, okay, I want to decide, I want to take this insight. I want to use this insight for me to be able to, I don't know, look at the future of halal and tayyiban. We want to upgrade. We are strong with our halal certification. But now I want to make sure Malaysia's halal supply chain certification is the best in the world. What can we learn from our halal certification to now use artificial intelligence for the halal supply chain?
I think the possibilities and opportunities are endless. I'd like to go back to education because this is something that is close to my heart. One of the things that people say about AI is that it enables personalized education.
It does.
Because currently we see that when, especially in public schools, you have 30, 40, 50 students in the class, and when the teacher comes in, it's difficult for the teacher to personalize the teaching process. And AI actually can help the teacher and also the students. What are your comments on this?
So we have seen this happening in many countries already, where the AI is sort of like a tutor, like it does the intervention to help, because then the basic part of it is taken care by the AI. The child, an AI doesn't get tired. And there's no question of patience, but the child could learn at the child's own pace. Not every child learns in a classroom has the same pace. So the AI helps with the child's pace. And then if you have students who are extraordinarily slow or who need more help, the teacher can focus. And then you have children who are, far advanced. And then the kind of intervention that they can be given is different. So in fact, it allows children to move at a pace that they are needed at. And that is today not possible in a classroom.
That's right.
It's peanut butter, right? You are putting peanut butter on a bread. It's just one stroke. But with education, especially in education where we see children are at different levels. In government schools, we have large classrooms. We have seen that many countries, including Japan, has been able to implement it.
What about teachers' competency when it comes to using AI? Because I'm quite sure the level of training for teachers may not be sufficient at this point in time. Many of them who are interested in AI, they will take their own initiatives, and I'm sure the ministry also has their own initiatives. But how can we ensure that teachers are empowered and they are, capable enough to utilize AI for education?
I think today the way our curriculum is set up is, like you said, right? It's very siloed, compartmentalized. I would divide it into three big areas. The language area, right? Malay, English, Chinese, Tamil, Mandarin, Tamil. And then in the technical side, the science, the mathematics, the STEM stuff, which that you can build in, where countries like China have already introduced AI in primary school, in secondary school. And then the third part is the social science, the kewarganegaraan, the Tata Susila, and I think it's still called kewarganegaraan. I remember Tata Rakyat.
During our time.
Right, civic dan kewarganegaraan. How do you use AI to educate children on online safety? Right? How do you interact with AI? How do you teach a student to interact safely with AI? What can you put online when you do prompting? How do you teach prompting? So I would like to see it in three buckets: the language, the STEM, and the social science part of it. So that way, people are able to learn and use. But I don't think there's a curriculum today. I think if there is, the Teachers Training University, UPSI, would be the most advanced, I believe, or maybe or UPSI would be the most advanced because they have Bachelor of Education, I believe. UPSI definitely does. So to me, if we could test a group of teachers, young teachers, on some of these and run like a pilot with a school, test and see how it works, then we can scale. And then we can do train the trainer model. And it doesn't have to be a massive rewrite of curriculum, but just testing. It could be tested at UPSI.
Okay, you've put forward a number of very thought-provoking things that we have to think about. You mentioned about curriculum,
Yes.
AI curriculum. Are there any countries that already have an example that we can follow?
I think where Microsoft has done the work, China has already introduced AI, like maybe 5 years ago. They have already introduced it in school. We in Microsoft work on what we call the micro degree. We have introduced it in India. We have introduced it in Finland, where the period for adoption and being able to learn is much shorter than a full 4-year course, and it's specialized and goes into the depth of a subject. To me, that is applicable if you are in workforce. You want to unlearn, relearn, cross-learn, and you want to go up the value chain. That's one way to do it. And there are students who don't have the luxury of being able to study for 4 years. This is one way to do it, right? So that's one option. But I do think, similar to how we teach science, the science curriculum, the STEM curriculum has to, as I said at the outset, AI is maths, it's not magic, right? So how do we now introduce AI as part of STEM, as part of, as simple as making sure that it is become natural way for children to learn, whether for them to learn or to learn about. It has to become part of just our overall curriculum.
Right, Dr. Jasmine, whether we realize it or not, we're coming towards the end of the program. Do you have any concluding remarks that you can share?
Yes, two things I would like to share. Muslims have played an important part in the world's inventions. And as I said, AI based on algorithms is not new to Islam, new to Muslims. Al-Khwarizmi was father of algorithms. We have a very strong start. We should not be afraid. We should be rooted on amar ma'ruf nahi munkar, and that we learn to harness the best of this technology so that we can do more to advance areas that are important to us. Islamic banking, the halal supply chain, and all of those related areas, and the ecosystem. And the second part is belief. No one can say I'm not touched by it. Whether we like it or not, we are touched by it. The best thing for us to do is to learn more, to understand the opportunities and the challenges that come with it, to be able to make informed decision. I think that is my two parting remarks.
I think those are very important points, because this is something that we should focus on so that we can reap the benefits from this technology. Thank you, Dr. Jasmine, for a very engaging discussion on our topic, Beyond the Algorithm, Innovation for Good. We've touched a lot of areas, but I believe that our discussion has been beneficial to our listeners. It is my hope that what we have discussed would lead to a better understanding on the benefits that AI has to offer when it is used for good, in line with Islamic teaching of carrying out amar ma'ruf nahi munkar, inshallah. Unfortunately, Dr. Jasmine, we have come to the end of our program for this week. But before we end, allow me to record our sincerest gratitude to you for gracing the program this week. Ladies and gentlemen, for the last 30 minutes, you have been listening to AI and You. I am Shaikh Muhammad Saifuddeen bin Shaikh Muhammad Salleh, signing off until next week. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.